Two similar stories, two very different outcomes. Dwight and Marcia both left Jamaica, escaping homophobic persecution. In a small town in Western Germany, these two friends are taking steps towards a new life. But only one can stay. Both say they've been attacked in Jamaica, a country where same-sex intercourse is illegal, and which rights groups call one of the most dangerous places for LGBT people.
I got stabbed when I was 17 because I was gay, and I reported it, and I didn't get any response from the police because I was direct about why they stabbed me. The guy saw me, he was riding on a bike, and he said, like, "Oh, so you're back. Oh, so you're back. The next time that we see you, we're gonna make sure that you die."
In Jamaica, because I'm openly lesbian, been an activist since Jamaica, I am known. So certain places, it's not safe for me. I remember I went to dinner in Sovereign Plaza with a friend, and that's where we were basically stoned with glass bottles and stones.
In seeking asylum, they faced the same court on the same day. The judge accepted Marcia's story. She can stay. But Dwight's case was rejected. The court said he could live safely in Jamaica. He takes a call from his caseworker. There's no good news. He's to be deported.
I didn't come to Germany because I want to. I come here because I'm running for my life, and for them to say, "Oh, you're safe, go back," I think that's unfair. So that's how I actually feel about it, and most of the time I think about like giving up, because I don't see myself going back to Jamaica, not even in a body bag or something. I don't see myself going back there at all. I cannot go back there.
Their diverging outcomes reflect the findings of a study of LGBT asylum seekers in Europe. Academics from the University of Sussex found that a third of applicants felt their stated sexual orientation was disbelieved, and 40% are told they face no persecution at home. German migration authorities say their staff are trained to treat LGBT claimants sensitively, and that the differing outcomes may depend on how each applicant tells their story. The asylum procedure is a special procedure in itself, where it always depends on the individual case. And as individual nuances can always be different, one cannot make sweeping statements on this.
Im Regelfall keine pauschalen Aussagen treffen.
Okay.
Dwight is trying to keep a positive outlook. He has already learnt German and wants to train as a care worker. He's hoping for an intervention to allow him to stay in Germany, close to his friend Marcia, and far away from his fears of life in Jamaica.
Well, I'm joined now from Frankfurt by Dr. Nina Held. She's a researcher at the University of Sussex in the UK and has written a report into LGBT asylum seekers in the UK and in Germany. Nina, why do you think Dwight's claim has been rejected while Marcia's wasn't?
That's a very good question. Thank you. And so just shortly, we've worked for 4 years on this project looking at SOCI claims across Europe. And we have identified this as one of the main issues with those claims, that there is often an inconsistency in decision-making. So we have this case of Dwight and Marcia, both from the same country, both have experienced persecution, and in one case, the claim is accepted, and the other case, it is not. We have to remember court settings are very terrifying settings. So you have to tell your story in front of a judge. You have to talk about very intimate aspects of your life. There is an interpreter in the room, so you can't, the flow of your story might be stopped because you have to stop after a couple of sentences and let the interpreter translate. So it's not a very comfortable setting. Dwight's court hearing, I think, lasted between 20 and 30 minutes, and in this time, he couldn't convince the judge that he has a well-founded fear of persecution, which is the basis of the Refugee Convention. That's what you have to demonstrate. The reason given was that it's safe for him to go back and relocate to the north of Jamaica, to a tourist area where it's actually not affordable for most people to live there. And there's also the question whether it would be safe for a gay person to live there, because as the report says, homophobia is widespread in Jamaica. It's very dangerous. And I would be very concerned about Dwight's life now if he was deported back to Jamaica.
In your study, you say there is a culture of disbelief among migration authority staff. I mean, how do you actually prove you're gay, for example, to one of those civil servants?
Exactly. In our study, we spoke to more than 200 asylum claimants, LGBTQI asylum claimants, and this was always mentioned as most of those people were refused. Yeah, so the majority of the people were refused, and most were very desperate and were saying, I don't know, what else can I do to prove my sexuality? And maybe any person who's listening now could ask themselves, how would you prove your sexuality? So it's very difficult, and in terms of the culture of disbelief, I think often decision makers start with the premise that the person is not telling the truth instead of the other way around, to actually start with the premise that what they're saying is true. And I think our participants, we have made a series of short films that are called I Am Who I Say I Am. And I think that's what our participants would say. They are LGBT, how are they going to prove it?
But critics say claiming to be gay or lesbian is just an easy way to ask for asylum. Do they have a point? Briefly, if you can.
No, they don't. That's not a point at all, because, as I said, we've interviewed more than 200 people, or more than 200 people participated in our study, and they could definitely say it's not easy to win a claim on sexuality and gender identity grounds. It is very, very difficult, and there is a culture of disbelief. How do you prove that you are gay? And if you're coming from a country where there's so much shame and stigma around, over 70 countries in the world still criminalize homosexuality. If you're from one of these countries, how do you feel about talking about your sexuality? This is very difficult even for LGBTQI people, and even that would be even more difficult for heterosexual people to fake it, so to say. So no, it's not easy. Definitely not. No.
Nina Held, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.